You are exhausting yourself fighting battles that do not even exist. Your mind has become a chaotic echo chamber of manufactured disasters, constantly simulating the worst possible outcomes regarding your finances, your health, your relationships, and a future you cannot even see. You live in a state of perpetual, vibrating tension, drained by a silent noise that systematically robs you of your peace and your power. But this suffering is not a life sentence, it is a mechanical error. Today, we are going to install a ruthless mental algorithm designed to dismantle that anxiety piece by piece. We will introduce a cold, logical decision tree to filter out the useless noise and isolate only the concrete realities that demand your attention. You will learn the exact mechanics of identifying a genuine threat versus a fabricated ghost. Stay exactly where you are. We are about to strip away the heavy, suffocating illusion of overthinking and replace it with the cold, unshakable steel of pure logic. Understand the biological reality of your own brain. Its primary primitive function has never been to make you happy or peaceful. Its job is to keep you alive by anticipating threats. Because of this outdated survival mechanism, your mind operates as a relentless problem-creating machine. If you do not provide it with a concrete, real-world challenge to solve, it will forcefully invent one to occupy its processing power. This mechanical flaw is the exact source of your chronic anxiety. The constant feeling of dread you carry in your chest is simply the byproduct of an unoccupied mind desperately playing a game of hypothetical disasters. You are suffering not because your life is actually falling apart, but because your biological hardware is misfiring, projecting ancient survival fears onto modern, harmless situations. The moment you recognize this biological glitch, you strip it of its power. You must stop identifying with every frantic thought that flashes across your consciousness. Realize that a thought is not a fact, it is often just a miscalibrated alarm system going off in an empty room. Detach yourself from the machinery of your brain and begin observing its chaotic production with cold, calculated indifference. You cannot win a war against a vague, formless cloud of anxiety. When multiple fears blur together into a singular, overwhelming sense of dread, you are completely paralyzed. The first tactical step to regaining control is isolation. You must force the abstract anxiety to take a concrete shape. Pull one specific worry out of the chaotic swarm and hold it up to the harsh light of conscious examination. Give the fear a specific name. Write it down on a physical piece of paper if you must. This simple act of articulation strips the anxiety of its intimidating, shadowy nature and reduces it to a tangible sentence. I am terrified of losing my income. I'm afraid of being rejected. By defining the exact perimeter of the problem, you immediately contain its ability to infect the rest of your mind. Now that you have trapped this single, isolated fear on paper or in your focused awareness, it is no longer an overwhelming emotion, it is simply a raw data point ready to be processed. This is where the mental algorithm begins its brutal, systematic work. We are going to subject this isolated data point to a series of uncompromising logical filters that will immediately determine whether it deserves your sacred energy or belongs in the trash. The first step of the algorithm acts as a ruthless, impenetrable filter against fantasy. You must ask yourself one unyielding question. Is this specific problem actually occurring in this exact present moment? You must be brutally honest with your assessment of the timeline. My company might lay people off next month is a hypothetical scenario. My manager is handing me a termination letter right now is a definitive present reality. The overwhelming majority of human suffering occurs in the space between reality and imagination. When you allow your mind to blur the lines between what is actually happening and what could possibly happen, you invite chaos into your nervous system. Your body reacts to the imagined future threat with the exact same chemical panic as a present danger, exhausting your physical and mental reserves. You must anchor your perception forcefully to the immediate present. Look at your hands, look at the room around you, and recognize the physical safety of your current second. The algorithm demands that you operate only in the reality that exists right now. If the problem cannot be touched, seen, or interacted with in this very instant, it fails the first test of the filter and must be reclassified. Accept the statistical reality of your own paranoia. The vast majority of the scenarios that keep you awake at night will never actually materialize. You're squandering your limited life force preparing for fictional tragedies. You obsess over conversations that will never take place and financial ruins that will never occur. You're paying the emotional toll for disasters that only exist in your head. This obsession with a non-existent future completely paralyzes your ability to execute in the present. While you are busy defending yourself against ghosts, the actual opportunities and real obligations standing right in front of you are being neglected. You sacrifice the power of today on the altar of a terrifying tomorrow. It is a fundamental misallocation of your most valuable mental resources. The primary function of this algorithm is to aggressively pull your consciousness back from the void of the future. You possess absolutely zero power over tomorrow until it becomes today. Stop trying to control time. By forcing your attention back to the immediate, tangible reality, you instantly reclaim the energy that was bleeding out into the illusion. The present is the only place where power exists. If your isolated worry failed the first filter, if it is not happening right here, right now, the algorithm dictates a single, absolute command. You must drop it. It is not a problem. It is a fabricated hallucination. You have no obligation to solve it, no need to analyze it, and absolutely no reason to prepare for it. It is a corrupted file in your system, and your only logical move is deletion. Your ego will violently resist this step. It will try to convince you that worrying is a form of productive preparation, that by agonizing over the future, you are somehow protecting yourself. This is the ultimate lie of the anxious mind. Worrying about a fictional future does not empty tomorrow of its potential sorrow. It only empties today of its strength. It is a completely useless expenditure of focus. Execute the dismissal with cold, unapologetic finality. When the thought attempts to crawl back into your awareness, meet it with a wall of indifference. Remind yourself that it failed the reality test. Let the phantom scenario dissolve back into the nothingness from which it came. The ability to look at a terrifying hypothetical and simply refuse to engage with it is the hallmark of an unbreakable mind. Suppose the threat survives the first filter. The problem is not a ghost of the future, it is a concrete reality standing right in front of you. The algorithm now demands you pass it through the second, uncompromising filter, the filter of control. You must ask yourself one brutal, definitive question. Is there any action, no matter how small, that is entirely within my power to influence this outcome? The trap here is the feeling of absolute helplessness. When a real crisis hits, the sheer volume of the problem often paralyzes us. We freeze in the face of adversity, choosing to spin our wheels in frantic worry rather than taking ownership of the situation. This hesitation is costly. The longer you sit in the energy of worry instead of the energy of resolution, the weaker you become in the face of the threat. You must shift your mindset from victim to operator. It does not matter if you cannot solve the entire problem in one move. If there is a single micro-action you can take, a phone call to make, a boundary to set, a choice to execute, the entire dynamic changes. You reclaim your agency. The moment you identify that you have leverage, the anxiety begins to starve and your power returns. To master this algorithm, you must visualize two distinct circles. The massive outer circle is your area of concern. It contains the economy, the opinions of other people, the weather, and the inevitable passage of time. Inside that, there is a tiny, concentrated inner circle. This is your area of control. It contains only your own actions, your own words, and your own attitude. Nothing else. Anxiety thrives exclusively when you force your mind to live in the massive outer circle. When you bleed your mental energy stressing over the decisions of politicians or the unfairness of the market, you are attempting to control the uncontrollable. The emotional result is a profound, suffocating exhaustion. You feel entirely powerless because you are fighting a war you're mathematically guaranteed to lose. Ruthlessly pull all your focus back into the tiny inner circle. Ignore the macro environment and dominate your micro reality. If the economy crashes, you cannot fix it, but you can control your own work ethic and spending habits. The moment you decide to operate exclusively within the boundaries of what you can actually touch, you become untouchable. The outer world loses its grip on your nervous system. If the algorithm determines that you do, in fact, have control over the situation, the scenario fundamentally shifts. You no longer have a problem to worry about, you have a task to execute. The answer, yes, I can do something, is an immediate call to arms. Worrying must end the exact second a viable solution is identified. Your only remaining obligation to yourself is relentless, immediate action. Worrying about a solvable problem is an insidious form of procrastination. You use the intense emotion of anxiety to trick yourself into feeling busy, while actively avoiding the hard work required to fix the issue. You pace the floor, complain to friends, and overthink the details, all as a subconscious excuse to delay pulling the trigger. It destroys your momentum and disrespects your own capability. Action is the universal, undisputed antidote to anxiety. Stop pacing and execute the very next logical step. The moment your physical body begins to move toward the solution, the chaotic noise in your mind goes completely silent. The brain recognizes that the threat is being handled. Do not overcomplicate the strategy and do not wait for the perfect moment. Put your head down and execute the work. Using your mind to endlessly worry about a problem you can easily solve is a profound misuse of human capability. It is the equivalent of sitting in a chair, intensely visualizing yourself lifting heavy weights, and wondering why you're not getting stronger. Worrying is just negative imagination. It is a powerful creative force being actively deployed to torture you rather than serve you. When you engage in this mental looping, you exhaust your central nervous system without altering a single atom of physical reality. You burn through your daily reserves of willpower and focus, leaving you entirely depleted. The devastating consequence is that when the time actually comes to face the obstacle, you have no energy left to fight. You have defeated yourself before the battle even started. You must fiercely redirect that imaginative power. Instead of visualizing the worst-case scenario, use your mind to architect the solution. Map the strategy, anticipate the necessary steps, and then let the physical world take over. Imagination is a tool strictly meant for creation and tactical planning. The moment it drifts into self-torture, you must violently shut it down and return to the physical work. But what happens when the problem is entirely real, happening right now, and the algorithm reveals you have absolutely zero control over it? The answer is no. There is nothing you can do. At this precise intersection, the algorithm points to a final, uncompromising command. You must practice total, unconditional acceptance. If you cannot act, your only logical choice is to completely let it go. Society has tragically confused acceptance with weakness or defeat. They believe that if you do not agonize over a tragedy, you do not care. But fighting a concrete wall with your bare hands is not a display of strength. It is a display of profound stupidity. Resisting an unchangeable reality only amplifies your own suffering. It is a desperate, pathetic attempt of the ego to demand that the universe obey its wishes. Acceptance is the highest, most lethal form of intelligence. You look directly at the immovable obstacle, acknowledge its devastating presence, and simply refuse to bleed your energy against it. You drop the rope and walk away. You do not have to like the reality, but you absolutely must accept it. By surrendering to what you cannot change, you instantly free up the power to dominate what you can. Society actively misunderstands the fundamental mechanics of letting go. They mistakenly view acceptance as a cowardly surrender, believing that if you do not fight the wall with your bare hands, you are inherently weak. Resignation is a state of total defeat, where you sit in the dirt and complain endlessly about the unfairness of the obstacle. It is an attitude entirely rooted in self-pity and victimhood, designed to destroy your momentum and justify your failure to progress. When you merely resign, you carry the heavy, bitter weight of the unchangeable problem with you everywhere you go. You may stop fighting the external situation, but you begin a toxic, exhausting internal war against reality itself. This quiet bitterness leaks into your daily interactions, ruining your relationships and slowly suffocating your ambition. You become a passive, cynical observer of your own existence, allowing unchangeable circumstances to permanently break your spirit. True acceptance, on the other hand, is a ruthless and calculated strategic move. You look directly at the immovable object, accurately recognize its immense density, and consciously decide to walk a different path. You do not surrender an ounce of your power. You strategically reallocate it to a winnable battle. By acknowledging the brutal facts without any emotional resistance, you preserve your vital energy. It is the ultimate flex of a sovereign, highly intelligent mind. The mental algorithm functions as a flawless, entirely closed loop. There are absolutely no loose ends left to plague your mind at 2 in the morning. If the threat is an imaginary ghost, you drop it. If the threat is real and actionable, you immediately execute the physical solution. If the threat is real and entirely out of your hands, you accept the unchangeable reality. At no point in this mathematical structure is worry considered an acceptable or productive output. Living outside of this rigid logical loop guarantees a life of severe emotional exhaustion. You spend your days suspended in the agonizing purgatory between knowing there is a problem and refusing to properly categorize it. This hesitation is exactly where anxiety breeds and multiplies. By failing to force your chaotic thoughts through the algorithm, you actively allow a minor passing concern to mutate into a paralyzing, all-consuming dread that ruins your entire day. You must force every single intrusive thought through this exact mental framework. Treat the operation as a strictly mechanical process, completely devoid of sentimentality or panic. When you process your daily fears through this rigid system, the internal chaos evaporates. You replace the panicked, high-pitched noise with cold, undeniable clarity. You are left with a clean mental slate, fully prepared to attack the physical world with absolute, unwavering precision. Your current reaction to stress is nothing more than deeply ingrained emotional muscle memory. You have practiced the destructive habit of panic for decades, effectively training your nervous system to explode at the slightest inconvenience. Your brain automatically defaults to catastrophic thinking simply because it is the deeply worn path of least resistance. You are currently fighting a biological conditioned reflex, not an inherent character flaw that you were born with. The profound danger of this automated panic is that it makes you entirely predictable and incredibly fragile. When the world knows you can be easily derailed by a minor setback or a passing comment, you lose all leverage in your life. You become a slave to external circumstances, constantly apologizing for your own emotional outbursts. The ultimate cost of living on autopilot is the complete and utter loss of your self-respect and your authority over your own existence. Rewiring this pathetic default response requires brutal, conscious intervention. The very next time the familiar panic begins to rise in your chest, you must physically stop your own momentum. Do not speak, do not react, and absolutely do not entertain the catastrophic thought. Insert the algorithm immediately. By forcing this logical pause over and over again, you slowly break the old circuitry. You train your mind to respond with cold assessment instead of blind animal fear. You are actively feeding the very anxiety you are desperately trying to destroy. Your modern environment is perfectly designed to keep your nervous system in a state of permanent, vibrating alert. By consuming negative media, engaging in toxic gossip, and obsessing over the curated lives of strangers, you are intentionally downloading malware directly into your brain. You are the architect of your own panic, constantly supplying the fuel that keeps the fire of worry burning. This constant daily exposure to artificial crises completely blurs your ability to identify genuine physical threats. Your brain cannot distinguish between a real financial problem in your own household and the manufactured global outrage screaming from your screen. Consequently, your body remains flooded with stress hormones, rapidly eroding your physical health and shattering your ability to focus. You are burning your engine out while parked perfectly still in the driveway. You must cut these toxic supply lines immediately and without mercy. You have to become incredibly ruthless about what you allow into your sacred mental space. Curate your digital environment and your social circle with the unforgiving strictness of a military operation. When you deliberately starve the false alarms, the baseline level of your anxiety drops dramatically. You clear the psychological battlefield, ensuring you only fight the wars that actually belong to you. The ultimate, permanent cure for chronic worry is the undeniable proof of your own competence. Anxiety tells you a vicious lie, convincing you that you will not be able to handle whatever disaster is coming your way. But your own history proves otherwise. You have successfully survived every single difficult day, every devastating heartbreak, and every brutal crisis you have ever faced. You are significantly harder to kill than your panicked mind leads you to believe. When you constantly try to predict and obsessively control the future, you signal a deep subconscious lack of trust in yourself. You operate from a baseline of profound insecurity, convinced that a sudden change in plans will completely destroy you. This lack of faith paralyzes your potential. You stay trapped in the safe, miserable comfort zone because you doubt your own ability to navigate the unknown and solve complex problems on the fly. Stop trying to control the uncontrollable external world and start trusting your inherent ability to adapt. Build a deep, unshakable confidence in your capacity to execute effectively under intense pressure. When you know you possess the iron discipline and the intellect to solve problems as they arise, the future stops being a terrifying void. You step into the chaos with a calm, dangerous smile, fully aware that you are perfectly equipped for whatever war comes next. The ultimate victory over anxiety is not the complete absence of problems, but the complete neutralization of their emotional impact. You have successfully built a fortress of logic inside your own head. When the external world spirals into chaos, demanding your panic and your energy, that noise crashes harmlessly against the walls you have constructed. You observe the storm, but you absolutely refuse to let the rain touch your skin. In the past, a sudden financial setback or a harsh criticism would have instantly triggered a cascading avalanche of dread. You would have surrendered your entire day to the nervous, vibrating energy of fear, becoming completely useless to yourself and those around you. The emotional devastation of that old existence was the profound, silent humiliation of knowing you were easily controlled by any passing circumstance or careless word. Now, the dynamic is entirely reversed. When a crisis attempts to breach your perimeter, it is immediately intercepted by the cold, mechanical efficiency of the algorithm. You process the threat without a single spike in your heart rate. You isolate it, filter it, and assign it to the proper category of action or acceptance. The fortress holds, and you remain seated on the throne of your own unshakable composure. You have mastered the profound psychological art of becoming the silent observer of your own internal dialogue. You finally realize that you are not the frantic voice echoing inside your skull. You are the vast, quiet space listening to it. This separation is the precise moment you reclaim your soul. You treat an anxious thought not as a deeply profound truth, but as a passing piece of raw data to be evaluated. The tragedy of the overthinker is that they merge their entire identity with their temporary emotions. If they feel a spike of fear, they instantly conclude that they are in terrible danger, believing every lie their nervous system produces. This total fusion with temporary panic creates a life of constant whiplash, constantly violently thrown around by the unpredictable weather of their own flawed brain chemistry. Step entirely out of the storm and take a seat in the stands. Watch the catastrophic thoughts float across the screen of your consciousness without feeling the desperate need to interact with them. Let the mind produce its worst-case scenarios, acknowledge their presence, and simply decline the invitation to participate. By starving the thought of your emotional reaction, it rapidly loses its form and dissolves into nothing. True power is the chilling ability to remain completely still when the entire world is aggressively demanding your panic. Society has normalized the frantic, overreactive state, confusing a high-stress response with genuine care or intelligence. They believe that if you are not visibly suffering over a problem, you do not understand its gravity. They are entirely wrong. Stillness is the ultimate marker of a lethal mind. Operating with a frantic, rushed energy is a guaranteed way to make fatal mistakes. When you allow external pressure to speed up your internal processing, you bypass your logical filters and revert to base animal instincts. You make impulsive decisions that inevitably compound the original problem, creating a disastrous chain reaction. The cost of losing your stillness is multiplying your own suffering entirely by accident. When the pressure mounts, consciously decelerate your breathing and slow down your physical movements. Let the people around you exhaust themselves with their manic pacing and emotional outbursts. You will provide the anchor of cold, calculated execution. You dictate the pace of the response. The ability to inject absolute, unyielding stillness into a chaotic environment makes you the most dangerous person in the room. You have successfully established a brand new baseline for your daily existence. The chronic, low-grade dread that used to hum in the background of your life has been permanently eradicated. In its place, you will find a strange, unfamiliar emptiness. This is the profound silence of a mind that is no longer cannibalizing itself with fictional tragedies. You have finally starved the beast of overthinking to death. Be prepared for the uncomfortable symptoms of withdrawal. Your body was chemically addicted to the cortisol and adrenaline generated by your old anxiety. In the first few days of this newfound peace, your brain will actively search for something to worry about, simply because the calm feels entirely unnatural. You will mistake this quiet serenity for boredom or a false sense of security. Do not fall for the trick. Embrace this silent, powerful new frequency. The massive amounts of mental energy you used to burn on phantom problems are now completely available to you. Redirect this surplus power toward building your physical strength, advancing your empire, or deepening your genuine connections. You have stopped playing defense against imaginary ghosts, and you are finally ready to play ruthless, unstoppable offense in reality. You are the absolute sovereign of your internal kingdom. No person, no event, and no hypothetical future has the authority to enter your mind and dictate your emotional state without your explicit permission. You have built a heavy iron gate at the entrance of your consciousness, and the algorithm is the guard that checks every single thought at the door. You have completely repossessed your own mental real estate. The weak people in your life will inevitably test this new boundary. They will attempt to drag you back into their chaotic drama, bringing you their manufactured emergencies and demanding your emotional participation. When you refuse to panic with them, they will accuse you of being cold or apathetic. Their anger is simply the frustrated realization that they can no longer manipulate your energy for their own comfort. Hold the line with zero apologies. Let them drown in their own unmanaged chaos if they refuse to learn the mechanics of peace. Your only loyalty is to the preservation of your mental sovereignty. Walk through the rest of your life with the silent, terrifying confidence of a person who has conquered their own mind. You have mastered the algorithm, defeated the anxiety, and firmly taken your rightful place on the throne. You have reached the end of the necessary suffering. The era of bleeding your vital energy over fictional futures and unchangeable pasts is permanently over. You have learned the brutal mechanics of isolating a fear, filtering it through the cold reality of the present moment, and ruthlessly demanding action or total acceptance. The algorithm is no longer just a concept, it is the new operating system of your life. The world will continue to spin in its predictable chaos. The economy will fluctuate, people will betray you, and unexpected tragedies will strike. But you are no longer the fragile, reactive victim standing naked in the storm. You are the architect of your own unshakable peace. You have built a mind that cannot be hacked by panic or hijacked by external noise. True freedom is not the absence of danger. It is the absolute certainty that you can handle whatever danger arrives without losing your mind in the process. You have claimed that freedom, protect it fiercely. If you are committed to maintaining this sovereign frequency and building an iron mind that the modern world cannot break, align yourself with this movement. Subscribe to the channel. The mastery of your life begins the moment your mind goes completely quiet.